Hello, welcome to the My Amazon Guy Ask Me Anything Agency Edition. We had a little hiccup with our StreamYard. We restarted the stream. Hopefully everybody piles in here momentarily. So what we do with this show is you come in, you can ask me any question live on camera. We're going to post a link in the comment section so you guys are going to be able to join, and we'll be starting here momentarily. So I'm going to put a little countdown. We're going to start in about 5 minutes and get everybody piled in, and we'll go from there. So stand on by. We'll be going live in 10 minutes. This is the Stephen Pope Ask Me Any Amazon Question. All right. Thank you guys for the technical hiccups. Doing a live show today. Here we go. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy, and we just started a new service called My Agency Guy, where we come in and help other agencies. And today's show is going to be dedicated to them. So we're going to have behind the scenes, we've got guests that are going to come on air and ask me live questions. And if you would like to join us and ask me a question live on camera, you can spend about 10 minutes with me on camera. We'll put a link right there in the top YouTube comment as well as the YouTube description. My team is quickly loading and updating some things. Team, make sure you update the title, the description, add all the links in so we can get our guests in. So behind the scenes, we had a couple of guests pile in, but they disappeared. So Kefir, if you're ready to come on camera, put it on your webcam. We'll put you on. You'll be our first guest. You ready to go? Give us a thumbs up. Hello, how's it going?
Hey, Steven. I'm good, man. How are you?
Well, good. Welcome to the My Agency AMA edition. Tell us one thing about your agency and how I can help.
Yeah, so I've been in the kind of freelance boutique agency space for a couple of years now, helping CPG and personal care brands scale and grow on Amazon. I wanted to just take this opportunity just to kind of ask you some questions. Obviously, you've been in the space a lot longer, and you're kind of a thought leader. So just wanted to get your take on a few things.
Let's do it. I'll give you my take.
Cool. So one of the things that I'm always kind of wrestling with and trying to figure out and optimize is like client fee structures. So I know there's a bunch of different ways that you can obviously charge clients, whether it's performance based, flat retainers, a bit of both. I just wanted to hear from you kind of your opinion on it. What model has worked best for you? And how does the model change for different brands or different brands of different sizes?
This is a great question. So over the years, I've tested out various different things. When I first started as a consultant, I would always just do flat deals. I'd be like, hey, and it was mostly project oriented at first, in fact. So for those that are just like new, you're a consultant, it's okay to do project deals all day long. You might be side hustling, for example. So I'd be like, hey, here's my $2,000 retainer. Sign it this I give a 1-page contract, sign it the dotted line. Here's what I can use my hours to do. Answer emails, take your calls, do the work on the account. As I progressed, I then changed it to flat monthly. And so my first flat monthly deal was signed on April 2nd, 2018. Special date for me. 48 hours before that, I had posted on LinkedIn about how I was going to do consulting full time. I didn't even have an agency name picked out at that point. And I signed that contract and I was off to the races. It was about a week later, I locked in on my domain name, my Amazon guy, and I kept the flat model rate for at least a year. I then said, I'm doing really good. I grew all these accounts. Like my first client, they were at 4,000 a month in sales and stuck there. They couldn't move. And then when they hired me, I got them to $85,000 a month in under 90 days. I'm like, oh, I'm a genius, right? I can do all this stuff. I'm cool, whatever. So I'll start charging really big commissions. And so I changed my model to like a 7% revenue share model primarily. And I think I had like a flat, like a grand plus 7% or something like that. Well, so same thing happened. I'd start growing accounts and things would go well. And then all of a sudden they were going to be cutting me checks for like $6, $7, $8, $10,000. And they fired me because they didn't want to pay the checks.
That's happened to me too.
Right? So if you do a high commission model and you do your job, they fire you. So none of that makes sense. So the question you always have is, what behavior do you want to drive? So I quickly jettisoned that. I didn't stay long on that. And then I landed on a flat model plus a small commission. And that commission would be anywhere from 1% to 3%. And I would choose to charge that based on the size of the current account. So if they're a brand new account, I'd be like, it's 3%. If they're an established account, it'll be less than that, depending on some variables, SKU counts, revenue size, and whatnot. And so what I have done for the last 2, maybe even 3 years now has been, a flat retainer plus a modest commission component. And that's what's worked really well for me. Now, the size of your agency and where you're at could dictate where you go. But the one thing that I will say for sure is I will never, ever do high commission deals ever again. And anybody who tries to negotiate a high commission deal with you, more often than not, doesn't have money to pay you. And so I require first month payment up front to even begin work because I like being paid. So was that helpful, Kefir?
Yeah, that was really helpful. One quick follow-up on that. You mentioned you took a commission on sales. Was that total like gross sales top line? Okay. Not just like ad sales or anything.
Yeah. So if it's a PPC only deal, you could do percentage of ad spend, although that model is kind of discouraged. I think a lot of people talk down on that because as an agency, then the behavior that you're encouraged to do is spend more money. But when we're doing full service, it does make sense to take a gross percentage as part of the deal. And the reason for that is because an account that's larger takes more work to run. In addition to that, you want to be given incentive to grow the account. You also want to have incentive to do more work. For example, let's say I have 10 SKUs today and I hire you and you did a flat model rate with me. And then all of a sudden next week, I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm going to launch 20 products in June. And here's all the SKUs and here's the template information. And you're going, well, that's out of scope. I can't help you. Well, if you do that, then they fire you. So, but if you had that small revenue commission model, you're like, no problem, bring all the SKUs in and, we'll take them. Right. And that's how I found the best way to balance the deal. So it's in the best interest of both parties is have a flat rate plus a small modest commission rate. And this is a great, learning that I've had to go through. It's a very difficult journey to be an agency and figuring out your pricing model, figuring out your value prop. These are things that take months, if not years, to master. And this is something that we figured out on our own, and now we're revealing it here. We've never talked about how we do that pricing model.
Well, I really appreciate the transparency, man. That was really insightful. Yeah, I'm going to take a lot of that and apply it. Thank you.
My pleasure. I'm not sure if the next guest is ready because we don't have anybody else with a webcam. So you get another one. You have any other questions?
Yeah, I do. I've got a bunch actually. But
Then hit me.
all right. So I guess what have you found to be the most reliable, consistent, and cost-effective ways to acquire clients? What has been that approach?
Yeah. So my first $1 million, I did basically pure pure referral, people just referring me out, and warm referrals. When I started making content immediately, I started doing YouTube stuff day one. Like first video was published probably April 2nd, 2018, how to make a brand store, very, very quickly early on. And that was a key to my success. So I got to $10 million by making content, and 10 million ARR. So that's basically money we're grossing every year. And that was through content generation, almost entirely inbound. Then about January of 2021, so not even quite 2 years yet, about 20 months ago, I then made an outbound sales team. The first person I hired for outbound sales is still with me today. And we built an entire team from scratch. And it's been fantastic. And that took me from 10 million ARR to 20 million grossing per year. And that's where we are today. Now, what's going to get me from 20 million to 50 though is going to be pay-per-click advertising. And this is, kind of the quad situation that you see most companies have to choose from, right? You got to choose your own adventure where you're going to spend your money. We have a nice case study where we walk through this journey. I'm going to share my screen and just kind of glance at it real briefly here. But there's a really cool chart. Let's see. That's the old one. We need to get the updated one live. We may not have the updated one live, but basically right here, warm outreach, that's the one. That's what got me to 1 million. Okay, we got the text out to the side here. That's good. And then content got me to 10, cold outreach got me to 20, and paid ads is going to get me to 50. And so this quad right here is your choice. Choose your own adventure. Which one are you going to do? As you go through the quad, warm outreach is the cheapest. It's the easiest and the cheapest, but it doesn't scale. Content is a little bit harder, but still you're not paying necessarily. Maybe you got an editor or something. Maybe you got a graphic artist, whatnot. But the costs are pretty minimal. You can do all the work yourself. Cold outreach, this is where the cost starts to really hit you because now you're paying salaries and you have extra bodies potentially, and you got softwares you got to use. Maybe you got an outbound email automation drip campaign, stuff like that. And then you get to run paid ads. This is where it's super, super expensive. Your margin drops hardcore right here. There are agencies out there that skip step 1 through 3 and go straight for run paid ads. And these agencies, if successful, are behind the scenes. Nobody knows they even exist, right? Because they're like, oh, you go Google Amazon agency and they're paying $8, $9 a click, right? The ones that are most known are the content ones. But if you're an agency and all you do is cold outreach, almost none of the network knows who you are, right? So what's interesting is that these blue quads right here, cold outreach and run paid ads, you're one-to-one with strangers. And so you're behind the scenes, competitors may not even know. So I guarantee you there's at least 3, 5, maybe even 10 sleeper agencies out there that don't do content and don't do anything warm. And they're straight up just contacting strangers and probably crushing it behind the scenes. But it's way harder to do that. And so if you're a new agency, you should start in the red sections, start with people go to warm outreach with content and work your way through the quad system.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I would assume with running paid ads too, that cost and that expense to do so is going to be passed on to whatever future clients you acquire. So,
or your margin takes a hit.
Right.
So I know a lot of agencies that have a margin anywhere from 5, 10, maybe even they're even negative sometimes. And I'm like, that's insane. That's crazy. I mean, I don't. You guys are like in the business just to pay people to work. I mean, that's nuts. I wouldn't do that. Really awesome agencies have a margin closer to 50%. But there's a lot of good agencies that are in the 20s to 30s that are doing just fine. There's nothing wrong with that at scale. But anything south of 15%, they have one of two problems. Either A, they're paying their people too much, or B, they don't have enough clients. So every agency ever can be summarized down to that problem. Not enough clients or too many employees are not enough. Paying my employees too much or paying them, or not enough clients to substantiate. Any way you rephrase that problem, that conundrum, it's the same equation, right? And so when you're trying to fix that equation, you have choices, right? You can outsource some talent and labor to bring the costs down, or you could just charge more, or get more clients, right? In e-commerce, there's usually four quads of things that you can do. Sell more products to more people more often for more money. Same concept with services. You just go out and chase those things accordingly. All right. So Kefir, how did I do today?
You did amazing, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, really insightful as always.
I like your podcast setup. What kind of mic you running?
I'm running the Shure MB7.
I'm running the same thing. All right.
Nice.
Well, very good. Thanks for coming on. Feel free to drop off and watch the rest behind the scenes on our YouTube channel. We got our next guest ready to roll. Is it Andreas or Andre?
However you want to say it, it's the same thing.
All right. Sounds good. Tell me a little about your agency and how I can help.
Yeah, I'm a one-man show. I have my own Amazon store selling. And I just, started meeting other people that needed help. And that's where I started. Now,
one thing led to another, right? Just nobody ever wakes up one day and says, "I want to start an agency," right? It just kind of happens.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't really consider myself an agent. I just
one man band. You're still probably a consultant for sure.
Yeah.
But do you want to be an agency?
I don't know. It's a good question. Still haven't. I don't have the answer.
So you haven't burned your ships yet. Okay. All right. I know that feeling so well. And for those that don't know what I mean by burn the ships, that means he hasn't gone all in yet. So when there was a famous story about a group of explorers that landed in the New World, and the first day they get off the ship, they unload everything, and then the captain literally burns the ships in front of everybody. So that way nobody can go back in the back of their mind and think, "Oh wait, I could still go work for the man. I could still go back to the corporate world before I do it on my own," right? So
well, this is my job. I don't have a corporate job, but I always think that maybe I could it's easier just to have very good selling products in your own store, and then don't have to, have the experience like you had and I had, that you start growing a client and then they want to get rid of you. So
that's what an agency's job is, right? It's you go in, you're the tactical military, you're SEAL 6, you go in, you take out bin Laden, and then well, bin Laden's gone. We don't need this guy anymore. Well, they probably do, but they don't think they do. And that happens. And so your job as a consultant, your job as an agency all day long is to shovel muck. And sometimes it's really mucky. It's really dirty work.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're doing it for a nice client who's very appreciative and is great to work with. And other times you do it for a scumbag who doesn't pay their bills. But that's the life of an agency. And as long as you go into it with eyes wide open, you can pad around the edges and make sure it works out, no problem. So we haven't identified how I can help you. So let's dive into that next. Where could I add the most valuable for you?
No, I just want to see what your process is. Let's say, because hopefully I'm going to sign a new account. They're selling already around 200K a month. And they want me to come on board and help them out to increase sales, because they think, and I also think, that they could do much better on Amazon. They have products that are all over the place: apparel, accessories, gifts, etc. What's your process when you receive this account? I mean, like, what are the things you see, you do, and you try to, get to the next level and start selling more for them?
So I'm not quite sure I understand this completely, so I'll poke a little bit around the edges. So are you trying to figure out whether you can sign them, or are you trying to figure out where you add the most value? How can I help?
Yeah, no, just your third process when you
process of.
Yeah, let's say you already signed them and you have them and they're on board.
Where do I start?
Where do you start?
Or how do I grow them? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. So first thing I do is I look at the main image of a product. That's the easiest thing to do to fix sales, even more important than trying to change the advertising. And the reason for this is that we've seen some products, and I'm going to demonstrate this a little bit. And we'll try and keep this to make sense for any agency ever. Anytime you're looking at an Amazon listing, or you're trying to go to a product page, or whatever. Sometimes when you look at the main image, you might ask yourself, what is this product? Right now, other categories don't have this problem, but here's an image without any identifiers, right? Most people can tell it's a baking pan. But what the consumer doesn't automatically think to themselves is what they do with it, right? So I once talked to a guy who was selling hummus ice cream. He went to a fair, and he was giving out free samples, and person after person would come by and ask him the same question: what do I do with it? And when the 8th person asked him, what do I do with this hummus ice cream? His gasket blew, and he's like, you freaking eat it. Right. But the consumer needs to be told what to do with the item, with what to do with the service sometimes. And so you smack dab adding some cooking baking sheets like this, and all of a sudden you can smell the difference. Right. You're like, oh, I need to buy this so I can bake cookies for my grandkids this weekend, or whatever. Right. Same thing. Here's another one. If I asked you, why would you buy this product on the left, you might tell me because it's yellow. Right. And that's it. That's all you would come up with. But on the product on the right, we fix the image dimensions. We say, oh, this is for kids between 6 and 12. It's a kids constitution journal, continuation rather. And then you can see inside of it, and it's not just white blank pages. It's, you can see some kid friendly things, right? This just changing the main image with nothing else on the account tripled the sales. And I can't emphasize enough, like the CTR, click-through rate, one of the most important things you could ever fix on an account. So after we fix the main image and whatnot, and there's lots of different examples we have here on how we do that. And
yeah, I saw your smudge sticks also.
Yeah. So after we do that, then we might look at some data and history, right? So if I go over to one of my products, right, and let's go to my Macho soaps, and we'd look at the history. We'd use some tools to see like what's going on with the history of the account, what's going on with the products. You can use Helium 10, for example, to get a chart like this. Oh, you launched this product in December 1st of 2022, and it immediately was a hit, and it went into the top 15,000, and basically it's been pretty stable, and this product's been good. Oh, what happened here? Why'd the price go down to $8? I might ask a few questions. Or, oh, why? Did the product go out of stock there? I don't see any green things. Do you ever have issues with your inventory? I might ask the client or the brand. And we pick up on some data, things like this. Then after that, we'd probably go over to their brand analytics. Let's see if this loads correctly. I just clicked a bookmark. And we'd go over to and we'll grab the ASIN. We'll look at this exact product. Then we'd go over to the ASIN view and grab weekly data. So we'll just go to the last week, right? And we go in here and look at the data and say, oh, wow, there's a lot of crossover to Dr. Squatch. Do we have advertising on these competitor terms? And obviously we do. And we go down this list and see, okay, so it's natural soap. What's our market share on natural soap or men's natural soap? We'll stick to men's just for fun here. So I have a 1.6% rounded up impression share on the term men natural soap. But when somebody sees my product, 40% of them click it. Wow, that's a pretty high number. Maybe I should spend more money on men's natural soap based on this data. And then you go through this data here and add to cart percentage and ASIN share. Well, my percentages are going up. 2.3% of all people add my product to cart, but I was only getting 1% of the clicks. And then, you scroll all the way to the right here and, oh my gosh, my purchase rate is even double that, right? I'm looking at, 4 or 5% numbers now. So we would know, based on looking at this product in less than 2 minutes, that men's natural soap is a very important keyword for the listing.
Sure.
So let's go back to the listing. Do we have the term men's natural soap anywhere on the listing? And the answer to that is no. So maybe we should add it, right? We go back to the title here, and then we start reworking titles. Cold press artisan natural soap for gift set. So we have an indirect match, but we actually we have this for women right there, right? But when we look at the brand analytics, it's a men's product. It's even called Macho soap. So how in the world does this product have the word women in it? Okay, cool. Well, as embarrassing it is to showcase this, it's kind of fun at the same time, right? So then we'd go quickly back into the back end of this, and we'd start working at editing the product, and we'd say, cool, well, it's obvious this is for men's. That's what the data says, and we start changing it. We update the search terms, and you notice I've got some Spanish here and some other cool things we got going on. Product name. So it's definitely not for women, right? Women could buy it, sure. Don't get me wrong. But Age of Sage, moisturizing, cold process, artisan natural soap. So artisan men's natural soap bar. Is that the exact match? So the exact match was, again, I feel like I closed the data on this for some reason. But in any case, let's go back to brand analytics and we'll take a quick look at it again. Go to the ASIN view, type it in last week, right? And the exact match we were going for was men's natural soap. So if we look at the title here and we rework it, let's see, where were we? Men's natural soap's the keyword we're going to try and fix. So men's natural soap. So now we got a phrase match, right? We got the word bar in between it. So I'm going to remove the word bar and make it an exact match. Men's natural soap, bar, gift set. And boom, I got it. Now, I may have undone another exact match that I was focused on previously, but that's okay. Because this week right now, brand analytics says that's my 8th most important keyword. 400 search volume, don't get me wrong, but men's bar soap, 1,400 right there. We're getting some good crossover. And then I would come down and save it. And then I would then go and I take the search query analytics and I would put that into advertising. I would make sure that we got exact matches on the listing. I would look at the design. I would try and fix it. And I would work on the core, right? So if we go over to my service page, so myamazonguy.com/FFs, if, full service, what that stands for, you can get a quick gander of kind of where we focus. So if we had to focus everything down to 2 things, it's create traffic, improve conversion rates. And then you could break that down even further. Under traffic, you've got paid ads and SEO. And under conversion, you've got anything that requires to manage the platform and the brand content and design. And so you could break those things down. And if you want to go down even further, you could go down even further. And you got merchandising and catalog troubleshooting and auditing and shipping plans and all kinds of different things that you could go and do for a brand. So that's my process. And you start at the top of the products. The highest sellers always work on those first. Correct. And then work your way down. And your job as an agency or as a consultant is to deliver nonstop value. Any questions about that process? I know it's kind of we did a live demo here, how I fixed the title while I was live on a show.
No, seems great. It's pretty logical, but just wanted to, I know you have so many more clients and much more experience, so just wanted to understand from A to Z what you're doing. And I mean, we're on the same page, and yeah, seems great.
So you're not sure you want to start an agency. Why is that? Why haven't you burnt your ships?
I don't know. I think again, I prefer to grow my own store and give it more products in my store. I think at the end of the day, it gives you more freedom just to be running your store. It
does.
And then to be, client after client and having, them say, I sold my company, they don't need you anymore. Or, I've had all of the above. We've grown too much, or I've had the ones that I went in and before starting to fix everything, it was a complete mess. So I said, look, do you know what your profit is on your store? And they're like, yeah, no. we're doing 18%. I go back.
They knew? Okay, interesting.
So, supposedly they knew.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. And it was a straight question. It was 18%. So I went back and I did a P&L from January all the way to July when I got them. And I said, sorry, guys, your profit is 4%. And they're like, no, you're that's not correct. And I'm like, well, these are Amazon numbers.
Here's what I'm seeing. Here's the data.
Yeah, I'm not inventing the numbers. And so I started fixing it up. And after 2 months, they said, look, sales haven't increased. And I said, sales haven't increased, but your profit margin went up from 4% all the way to 15% because you're not spending as much money. You're optimizing the shipping, no relabeling involved, everything. They said, yeah, but we wanted more sales. And I said, well, then I guess we're not aligned because I'm making you more money in your pocket with the same amount of sales. And they were spending in PPC like $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and I generating only $10,000. I put it to $1,500 a month, generating $9,000 in sales. So I'm saying, you're just making more money. We're at the same sales. Give me another 3 months, and I'll show you that we're going to grow. they said, no, we just want more sales. I said, you know what?
So this is a classic case of setting expectations with the customer, right? So one of the things that I do to help with expectation setting during the sales process, but also during the onboarding process, I will ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being profit at the cost of growth and 10 being growth at the cost of profit. What is your number, right? So in your case, you assumed potentially. My dog's coming out to say hello to me here, so we got my puppy. I'll bring Puppy on the screen. This is Loki. He's my Vizsla. We'll see if he lets me do my live show without. I might have to throw a couple things. We'll see. So when you onboard a customer, or even during the sales process, you got to ask them, what do you want? Right now, they may have told you, come in and fix my account. Okay, tell me more about that. What does fixing the account mean to you, right? Because if you didn't probe on that question and you assumed, cut the waste, and they thought, I want to double the sales, then all your hard work was meaningless to them. They didn't even value it, right? But if they had said 10 out of 10, growth at the cost of profit, you would know immediately, instead of cutting that $2,500 and $5K wasted ad spend, you would just reallocate it and then shift it over immediately day one, and then grow the account while also making them more profitable. But they would only be counting the growth as the metric in question, right? So that's something that I've learned long ago, right? If you're going to become an agency, or even if you're an agency now and you're wondering, what should I do next? The answer to that question is always ask the customer, right? Ask the customer, what do you want? And then give it to them. Because if you try and do something a lot, there's a good business book called Blue Ocean, right? If you go and read that book, it tells you, if you copy your competitor, you'll become like your competitor. Then you become a commodity, and then you don't have a margin, right? I ignore my competition. I don't care what they're doing. There's some cool competitors out there, some cool agencies out there, but I literally do not know what they're doing. I don't follow them. All I do is keep close contact with my customer. And I ask them these 3 questions all the time. What should I start doing? What should I stop doing? What should I do more of? And then I constantly do exactly what they ask for. And it's amazing to see the results of that. So this is a great use case for that scenario. I don't know if that's helpful, but I'm sharing my experience on how I've dealt with it.
Yep. I mean, you're always learning in this business. So yeah, for sure.
No matter what you do, whether you're a seller, you're learning. Whether you're an agency, you're learning for sure. How big is your product business right now, if I can ask?
I'm doing around 80 to 90,000 a month.
So you could go full time on that. You get, if you got a 10 or 15% margin as a seller, you probably could do full time. But then the question becomes this: do you want to grow?
My store, yes.
Yes.
Sure.
So how do you grow while simultaneously taking a paycheck? Right? How do you invest in buying more inventory? And here is why side hustle consulting, while you're an Amazon brand, often makes a lot of sense, right? Because you can take the money that's like straight up 100% margin for your time from the agency, from the consulting, and then throw it right back into the business. Or have the business self-sustain itself while you pay your paycheck out of the consulting work. That's what a lot of people do, and that's why they end up where they are. So I can totally understand why you haven't burned your ships. But if you you want to go product side, you then have to forecast, okay, how much profit, how much growth, what's my own number? You're the client in this case, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think my approach is trying to get just 4 or 5 bigger clients, and not having that much pain with the smaller ones. And I think that's my approach. Yep.
And I think that'll work out for you, especially if you're doing a bunch of small deals while you focus on the product business. So Andreas, it was great talking with you. Thanks for coming on. I wish you the best in growing both your product business and potentially maybe some consulting work on the side.
Great. Thank you very much, man.
All right. Thanks for coming on. All right. So we got another person waiting behind the scenes. If you want to ask a question today on camera, click the link at the top of the description. Click the link at the top of the comments. Feel free to join us. We did have a super sticker from Time Warp Custom Paint. Thank you so much for that. I may seek out your written question if you didn't come on camera. I want to make sure I take care of you. If you do a donation, I'll jump to you. Looks like I don't see a question, so we might be good to go with that. But we're gonna prioritize on the air questions behind camera with me right now. And then if we have lulls, I'll go to the comments. So if you have a written question, you don't want to come on camera for whatever reason, feel free to type it in as well. Our next guest, who's got their webcam on, how do you say your name?
Hi, Steven. How are you? I'm Faizan from
Kazan.
Pakistan.
Okay, great. And do you run an agency?
Yeah, basically, I'm offering services on freelancing platforms like Fiverr and Upwork.
Yep.
So my most of the clients are from Fiverr and Upwork right now. And basically, I was thinking that like these are the platforms like I'm currently dependent upon, and there are certain reasons based upon that they sometimes close out your account and all the history that you have made till that point gets to waste. So that is something that
Yeah.
happens to a lot of people, and
That's
that's why I
the
was
life of a consultant, life of an agency for sure.
yeah.
I see you had written kind of your question, how to set real expectations with the client for $1,000 a month. Is that kind of the main question today?
Yeah, one but that's a second question. The first question was like I want to now transform move from a freelancing agency like freelancer into an
An
agency model.
agency.
So
Okay. So
yeah, I
how do
have
you
a
make the
team.
leap?
Yeah. So, what's the
Okay.
important steps that I need to make? Like, I am doing freelancing, but I still have a team. I have an experienced team, been offering services for the last 3 years, and we do product research and PPC ads management. We don't offer A to Z launch services. We specifically offer product research and PPC ad management services. So, I have a
Yeah.
team. And I am like able to scale my team, and I'm able to get work with more clients. So that's why I wanted to
So
like
it sounds like to me you're ready. So the
yeah,
question is, have you taken the steps to make a website? Have you taken the steps to
yeah,
get a domain name? So when
yeah.
you communicate with clients, is it coming from a Gmail address or is it coming from myamazonguy.com, for example?
So right now, because I work with for clients that contact me on Fiverr and Upwork, so like
Yep.
it's an
Which is very
individual.
common. Very common.
Yeah.
That's
So
normal. It's totally cool to do that. But once you want to make the leap from consultant or side hustle or gig economy, and you want to go agency, you have to create some properties. You have to attract clients outside of Upwork, outside of Fiverr, right? So
yeah.
have you built a website yet?
So I have recently decided a name. Like just yesterday, I finalized a name that I would like to have for my company, and I checked for the domain name, and that was
Good.
available as well. So that is something that I am planning. I have also contacted a developer that can create a website for me. So like I have the portfolio ready, everything I have, even
Good.
all
That
the experience
that's your
that I
next
have.
step. Yeah, your
Yeah.
question is an easy answer. Build out the website, get the domain going, and then I like to use G Suite instances, and this is very very helpful, especially if you like using Gmail, for example. A lot of people do. You
Mhm.
can set what's called the MX record out
Okay.
of GoDaddy, out of Namecheap, wherever you buy your domain, and have that up and
Mhm.
running in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after you have that, you start building the website out, and you get a designer. Oh, my little puppy here, he's like wants to say hello again.
Yeah.
um, so this is the joys of having a puppy with a live show. You never think, oh, I thought he'd be sleeping, right?
Yeah.
So you get the website started, and then you start building content, and you start
Mhm.
attracting customers. And that's the difference, right? If you are relying upon customers from a marketplace, you're in the gig economy. And to make
Yeah.
that transition from the gig economy to a full-blown agency, you have to attract clients directly.
Okay.
And all right, so I'm going to move on to your second question here is how do you set realistic expectations with the client? Um,
Mhm.
the thing that I like to do is I give them a contract and then I ask them, what do you want? And they say, oh, I want my PPC to be 35% ACOS. And I
Mhm.
only want to spend $10,000 in ad spend. And I say, cool. What is your goal? And they said, oh, I want to double my account. Well, if you want to double your account from $10,000 a month to $20,000 a month, you need to spend at least $5,000 more in PPC. Are you going to give me the budget to do that? And they'll be like, no. Okay, cool. Well, your goal for double may not work out. What about a goal of 40% growth? And they're like, yeah, okay, I'll live with that. And now
Mhm.
that you set the right expectation, you put that in the contract and say, hey, here's what I do for you. and here are the goals you told me, and I'm going to work towards these goals. Now, in some instances, you guarantee results or money back. In other instances, you just say, I'm working towards your goal and I guarantee nothing, right? Whatever your value proposition is, you decide. And then you start your delivery, right? And then your first week, you got to have a massive win. First week, anytime you're running a client with an agency, you got to have a big win to start things out, because that sets the tone. Otherwise, they're just going to leave and cancel on you, right? The most important thing after that is to do check-ins once a month. Here is your milestone. Here's your goalpost. Here's what you said you wanted me to do when we started. Here is our update to progress on that. Now, a lot of times it takes a solid 90 days to get that going, right? It takes 90 days sometimes to get a full, proof of concept, proof that your work works. And you have to tell them, be like, look up front. It's going to be a hockey stick. You need a hockey stick of growth, because you're going to have a small amount of things happening to begin with, and then it's going to just start going up fast later on, right? So around day 90, right?
So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that most of the clients that I get specifically on Fiverr, they just get their product ready on Amazon, and they are like, we don't want to spend more than $30 a day, so like $1,000 per month budget. And then when we say that this is not going to be enough, and you have to wait for, like, if you are doing a private label, you need to wait for 3 to 4 months before you even think about generating profits with this kind of budget. But then they say, like, no, we can't spend on advertisement for that much time, because these are the kind of clients who don't know much about private label. They don't know how it works. So basically they just want to come into the market, start being profitable from the first month. So like
so this is a concept of never lose a customer, but not your ideal customer, right? And so these are competing priorities. And so what you have to do is figure out, how could I service that customer and make money on them still without while still hitting their customer expectations, right? And so sometimes, right, a client's not ready for me to do full service. They're not ready to drop $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month to hire my Amazon guys. So what I do then is I offer them a project, and I say, cool, well, you know, based on your goals, my full service isn't a good fit for you. You're not a good fit for me either. But what is a fit is, you know, buy a trademark for me for $850, get a main image for $100, and do this, and this. And then I send them my a la carte pitch, and I say, take it or leave it. And more often than not, they take it. And then project's over and no problem, that's done. And then what happens is time passes. A year passes, 2 years pass. They call me back up and say, hey, I wasn't ready for full service then, but man, that thing you did for me, that one project, it worked out amazingly well. Now I want to hire you for full service. Never lose that customer by developing a service for everybody, right? And just like I'm making my agency guy, right? So my agency guy is built to help agencies figure out how to grow their own sales. And so what happened was, here's the story of why I created this. At my Amazon guy, we started selling SOPs, 450 SOPs, standard operating procedures on how to run an Amazon account. And what I saw is that for every 2 Amazon businesses that brought my SOPs, an agency bought them. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Agencies are now my customer, buying my product on how to run an Amazon account. And I said to myself, well, that's interesting. That means agencies are now my customer. So I said, cool. What if I built my agency guy to service them as a customer? This concept we're talking about is the same exact thing that you're dealing with. Never lose a customer. Always make a service for each customer. And that's why my flywheel over at my Amazon guy is gigantic, because I'm always trying to build services for all kinds of different things, right? You know, I'm not an attorney, but I sell trademarks, right? We have a clawback service to help people pull back for, you know, their refunds. So anyway, so my refund guy, my agency guy, and I made the my guy branding, right? I try and keep the flames going. We built this out, and we're charging $2,000 sum total to get all of our operations things. What does it take to run a company? How do you hire? How do you fire? How do you run the finances? How do you do all these things? And then a sales accelerator program for 10 grand where we teach you how to go find clients, how to do all those things. Now, Faison, I know very well you're not my ideal customer. You're probably not going to buy this. But the reason I'm sharing this is because each time you have a customer, you never want to lose them. And so, and if none of my projects are a good fit, I will give them something for free and just help them, right? And point them in the right direction. So one of the things that I did for people who are never going to buy from me is I built a case study where I walked through all of my growth, how I got where I was, how I went from, first year I did 360 grand as a consultant with like 3 employees. And then today I've got 400 employees, 400 clients, and I'm at 20 million in revenue, right? And so we walked through how to do that. We shared all these things and how we went from each step of the process along the way, and we give that away for free. So that's the same concept for you, and hopefully that's helpful.
That was great, and that was very insightful as well. Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate all the help that you have done. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast with our AMA today for agencies to come in and ask any question. You've been great, been a great guest there. I like helping people all around the world, no matter where they are. So we've got some comments in the chat. I'm going to go through and look at some things. Let's see. How does the featured offer help a listing? So we got an Amazon question. I'm going to pass on the Amazon questions today. I'm here just to help agencies. So feel free to post just agency questions today. Let's see. Here's a good one. All right. Zishan, he asked, have you ever felt like you dodged a bullet or missed someone good in the hiring process by good judgment or misjudgment? And the answer to that is 100% yes. I would say we use tools to help out with the hiring process. One of the tools that I like to use is called Culture Index. And it is a glorified zodiac sign test for the corporate world, right? It's basically a personality test. And a lot of people who get rejected during the process from taking Culture Index are very upset. They're like, oh man, they're using personality tests. This is illegal. How do they do that? Right. And I guarantee you, I am missing out on some talent that would be hired at most agencies. And the reason for that is I've built a very specific culture and I know exactly what I'm looking for. So during the hiring process, I guarantee you I am missing talent today. And that's okay. It's okay to miss out on talent. Why? Because predictability is more important than the concept of missing out, right? As a business, the more boring your business gets, the more predictable it gets, the more profitable it becomes. And as an entrepreneur, I have a really hard time swallowing that pill. That is a horse-sized pill I just gave out, right? But the boring your business, the more predictable, the more franchisable, the better off your business is, which means don't go out and add a bunch of random services that you can't commit to, right? That's why I stayed to Amazon. That's why I don't do Facebook and Google, although I've dabbled there, right? Like, but focusing on one core thing and being a 10 out of 10 versus being a generalist and doing 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 across multiple services, super important. And so hiring is just like that. I use tools like Culture Index to make predictable hires. The likelihood of a hire at my company after we make an extended offer is significantly higher of succeeding because of the process that I have set up. So I don't worry about missing out on talent. I'm okay with that. The other flip side of this, though, is what happens when you make a bad hire. So Gary Vee likes to joke that hiring is guessing and firing is knowing. And Gary Vee runs one of the most successful agencies in the world. He's a good guy to follow to get some agency advice. And I'm trying to follow his suit in some ways, right? I'm giving out my own agency advice, and I'm one of the very few openly speaking Amazon agency advice givers. But for me, we know when somebody's not going to work out. Typically, when clients complain in mass, you're always going to have client complaints at an agency, right? That's your job as an agency is to go service accounts and hear complaints. Just like a boss in a non-agency standpoint, managing an employee, you always give feedback. Clients give you feedback, bosses give feedback. And so there is going to come a point where you make a misjudgment. You hire somebody that you thought was going to work out. You use all these tools to make the predictability go up. But eventually you hire somebody that's like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Or, oh my gosh, I thought they were going to be an all-star player, but this guy is bad. And then you exit them. And sometimes when you exit an employee, you're doing them a favor, right? You're like, hey, this is not a good fit for you. You really should switch careers, like do something different. So, for example, our one of our earlier guests, maybe we would have hired him to do agency work, and he can't keep up with the stuff, and so hey, you should go work on your own account, and you're really good at it. You're really good at PPC, but it takes you a week to optimize an account. That's okay if you're running one account, but if you're trying to run 10, that ain't gonna work, right? So, sometimes there's a culture shock, culture fit question, and you exit. I went deep on this question because I thought it was really interesting. Because hiring is definitely guessing and firing is knowing. Sometimes when you fire somebody, Yossi says, wow, exclamation mark. Very cool. We got some PPC questions. I'm trying to learn how to do PPC for my agency right now as a service base, because running PPC on Amazon, way easier than trying to sell PPC for an agency, and the bids are way higher in Google and all that good stuff. Ruff says, good morning, Steven. Thanks for helping me get on Amazon. Then listing optimization. Now as a full service client, from engineer to self-employed. Thanks to you. Well, I love unexpected client testimonials. Thank you for that. Sometimes it's great to see that journey. And that's one of the most rewarding things about running an agency, right? You help people and then you get to see them say thanks. So Ruff, thanks for being a customer. I really appreciate that. Can you explain the check product conversion rate? So I am skipping over some of the Amazon questions today because I want to help out agencies. Can I join you as an intern? I have a medium knowledge of Amazon private label. I love guys that know how to measure themselves. First of all, that's a great trait to have. For anybody that wants to apply at myamazonguy.com to work here, all you got to do is go over to myamazonguy.com/jobs. And if you want to do an internship, you can go to /internships, but down on this drop-down menu on careers, you can see our employee reviews, internships, brand manager jobs, IT jobs, PPC jobs, design, sales, and social media, and all that kind of stuff. So feel free to apply. Wish you the best of luck in that process. We're always hiring. And the reason for that is I grow 8% every month. So that's why I'm always hiring. Sometimes you see an always hiring sign at a company. You're like, oh, that's a bad sign. I don't want to work there. They have a churn rate. In other instances, it's actually a really positive sign because they're always growing. And I'm going to defend that I'm the always growing side of the spectrum here. What percentage of my revenue is spent on marketing? Probably like 2%, really small number. If we really try to calculate this, though, as a company owner, I spend a lot of my personal time doing marketing. So if we try to calculate my hourly costs, the answer to your question would be very different. But in terms of me spending money on paid ads today, it is super small, right? We're talking $5,000 to $10,000 in PPC spend just in the last 30 days, and it was mostly a test. And prior to that, maybe $5,000 for the whole year in the previous 9 months or so. Very little money being spent on paid ads. And this is something I'm trying to crack right now, and we're running some tests behind the scenes. But in terms of paid marketing, that's the quadrant that I'm trying to work on right now. There's a lot of successes because I spend most of my time making content that keeps giving and giving, right? So I have videos from years ago that have thousands and thousands of views and they become customers, but I'm not paying for that. I also disable ads on my own YouTube channel because I don't want somebody else's services showing up on my channel. So I don't even monetize my content. But that's the strategy that works for me. So, David, it is totally fine for agencies to spend money on their PPC or market their services, but it should be the last. It's the last thing that I'm working on. I shouldn't dictate what everybody should do, but what I'm doing, I made content to get to 10 million. I made a sales team to get to 20 million, and what's going to get me to 50 is PPC. So I know I have to work on it, but it's really rough. What is something, David asks, what is something you wish you did differently when you first started? These are always great agency questions. By the way, if anybody still wants to be one of our last guests live on the air, click on the StreamYard link. You can come on camera and ask me a question. Want to be agency focused today for our AMA for agencies. So what is something I wish I did differently from when I first started. I wish I had burned my ships faster. So I did side hustle consulting for 5 years before I made my Amazon guy. I was making 200 grand on the corporate side, and I was going for the CMO track. I wish that I had not stayed on the corporate track as long as I did. I wish I had started my agency sooner, because based on my trajectory, I would already be at 30 million today if I had started 2 years sooner. And so that's one of the things I'd say for sure. The second thing is I wish I had hired leaders earlier on, uh, because I'm very sure of myself, is probably the polite way to put it. I decided that I could run operations, marketing, sales, do everything myself, and then just have my team do delivery. And the problem with that is that over time, as I scaled to 100 employees, to 200 employees, I had a leadership deficit. And it made my time very drawn thin. I also wish that I got out of client direct relationships sooner. That was one of the most powerful things that I did when I stepped out and I made brand management run without me. I was able to system build better, and I was able to have happier clients without me on the calls. Obviously, a client loves when I jump on a call. Every time an agency gets hired, they always love the founder on calls, and they'll always ask for it. But the second I changed my sales system to say, you're not buying time from Stephen Pope, you're buying Stephen Pope's system, my agency scaled way faster and I had happier customers. Why? Because I was able to step back and work on the business instead of in the business. And I wish I had taken that step much sooner. Great question around that. What is the min dollar amount I charge a customer? $50. I'm copping out on the answer here, but that's the truth, right? I take project orders all the time for small. If you go onto my coaching page right now, you can write to me for $50 and ask me a question at myamazonguy.com/coaching. And so let me see if I can pull that up on screen here. Here we go. So if you go to myamazonguy.com/coaching and click on this, if you scroll down, you'll see I take $50 questions right here. Anything on Amazon, general business growth strategies. I have 2 or 3 people a day that give me $50 to answer an email. That's pretty cool, right? Right. If you run the math on that, I've made thousands of dollars on this, and I enjoy it. I enjoy doing this. Never lose a customer. That's the smallest amount. Now, I'm copping out on your answer, Adam, because I know what you're really asking is how much would I charge for a monthly full service client, and the answer to that is. We have a very wide range. And if you only have a single product SKU, I might be able to charge you a lot less than the guy that's got $1 million account with 100 SKUs. So I do use a special proprietary calculation on how we charge. We don't release that publicly. And if you want the answer to that question, go to my agency guy's website at myguy.agency, and you can purchase the answer to that question for $10,000. It's an expensive question. All right, where's the purchase button? I can't even. Oh, okay. I got to go back to the homepage here. We should add the purchase button to the case study page. So here, you hit the enroll now button, and you're going to get access to a copy of one of our contracts. We're going to give you a calculator to show you how we do our pricing, and we're going to show you our cold call scripts, our email scripts, how to hire for sales, how to do all of those things to get clients. This is the only thing that I'm a super guarded secret on is my sales process. Everything else, I think the more free things I give out, the more content I give out, the more customers I'm going to get. But I had to gate something. This is what I chose to gate. So, Adam, if you got a big enough pocketbook, I hope you purchased the answer to that question. All right, let's keep going down the questions. I'm surprised we don't have more people coming on camera today. Last time we did this, we had like 10 people in queue. It was awesome. So if you guys want to be the last person to come in and ask me questions, jump in. Let's do it. Let's see. Kefir says, you need to position yourself as low risk. So a risk reversal guarantee or a performance only fee structure. Once you get case studies, you can remove these. I actually like that answer. I'll add an additional one. Do free work, get the case studies faster. Right. And if you do a bunch of free work for your friend or whoever and say, hey, for the next 90 days, I'm going to do X, Y, Z for you. And then at the end of that, I'd like to be able to use your testimonial, your picture, and refer me out. And everybody says yes to that typically. And then you can gain clients really fast if you do free work for people. Let's keep going down the list. Would I hire friends? And how do you manage personal relationships if you become your employee? This is a topical question because we actually fired a family member this week. And the answer to this is generally I avoid it because when it doesn't work out, it can ruin relationships. So if at all possible, I recommend avoiding hiring family and friends. Now, my father does work for me, and he's worked for me for 2.5 years. So it is possible to make it work. But when you have to give feedback to your father, when you have to give feedback to your son, your friend, or your cousin, or whoever it might be, it's a lot harder, right? Because they want to be treated like a family member and you run a team. And the difference between a family and a team, it's severe, right? Because in a family, you put up with a lot of stuff. When you go to that Thanksgiving dinner and you put up with family stuff, there's a lot of drama you got to put up with, right? But as a team, you do Moneyball, and it's about the numbers. Can you get on base? If not, you're off the team. And so that separation, you oftentimes when you hire family and friends, you have to make accommodations that hurt your business more often than not. So I generally recommend not doing it and avoiding it, but it can be done. There are special circumstances, but I would definitely not do it right out of the gate. If you can avoid it, wouldn't recommend it. All right, we got Ramiro. You just joined us behind the scenes here. You run an agency. Tell me a little about your agency and how I can help.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Pat. First place, thank you for having me here. I'm very happy to meet you. My question is the following. I'm running an agency. We actually now have 5 clients. The thing is, I don't know how to get to the next step. My question is, I personally talk with the clients almost every day. Then I talk to my team. I basically don't do anything operative like creating listing or changing bids. I have everything automated. But I know that on the next step, I should be able to have somebody who treat directly with the customers. You know what I mean? With my clients. So how do you find somebody? How do you trust that you can have another client and that other people will have a good relationship with them? I don't know if I was clear.
Yeah. So you're trying to figure out how to scale. That question I fully understood. And the answer to that, though, can often be where are your roadblocks, right? So are you trying to go to 10 clients, or are you trying to make it so those 5 clients are automated and you don't have to do anything? Like what? Tell me about your goals.
I mean, my goal is to have as many clients as I can manage, but I think that I can't manage more than 5 with my process now. If I want to grow, I have to be able to have somebody treating directly with the client. So 10 will be the next year goal, I guess.
So is anybody in your company currently client facing?
Sorry, is there anybody in my company? What?
Are you the only client facing person at your agency so far?
No. Other people of my agency know the clients, but they are like very particular things like PPC guy or catalog team. So they don't know the whole spectrum, you know?
Yeah. So do you how big is your team? How many people so far?
We have 5 people, 6 with me.
And is anybody in client relations, whether you call them an account manager, a brand manager, an account executive, all kinds of names that can be done? But
No, they're more specialists. They're more like PPC specialists, catalog specialists, logistic specialists.
So there's nobody that can go on a video conference call without you and run the call. That's what I'm hearing. Is that right?
I don't trust them that much. I trust them, but not that much.
That's the next level. So you need to hire a brand manager, also known as an account manager, to come in and manage the clients. And the PPC guy and the catalog guy are going to start taking instruction from that brand manager. And you don't have to do it this way. So here's how I did it. I kept your model until I got to about 20 clients. So it is possible to be the only client-facing person in a company until about 20 clients. But if I went back in time, the way I would have done it over is when I hit 8 to 10 clients, I would have had a brand manager come in and I would have put them managing meetings and managing expectations with the client, keeping client contact. I prefer meetings every other week. And I think anytime you have weekly meetings, it creates burnout. But a really powerful biweekly meeting can make a huge difference in keeping your team from burning out. Right now, the way that you could work your way towards this, what I call them Amazon specialists. Right, these are generic workers that can do lots of various things. They typically cannot do design, and they're typically not trained in PPC. So pretty much anything else on an Amazon account that's not PPC or design, we hire as Amazon specialists. These are your troubleshooters, your ticket creators, your merchandisers, copywriters, and the like. Generalists, if you will. I started bringing my Amazon specialists to calls with me. I would still lead the call, but then I would shout orders to them. They would do some project management. And then I started promoting the ones that were capable of leading calls. After they had witnessed me for 60, 90 days, I would then start promoting them to manage the call without me. Brand manager, account manager, etc. And so they would then run the calls. And then I would join every other call, right? They would run the biweekly. They'd have all of the agenda set up. They'd have all the preparations. I would come in and just start the meeting out for 5 minutes and then turn it over to them. Right. And then over time, I would start sneaking away and more. And then I started having brand managers run calls entirely without me. They would build the relationship. They would maintain it. This particular hire is way more expensive than a PPC guy that's behind the scenes, way more expensive than a designer behind the scenes. Why? Because communication is an expensive trait. You have to pay a salary for it, right? Now, so you may not be able to afford a brand manager hire at 5 clients, but what you can do is try and buy back some of your time. And buying back your time could include cutting down on meetings. It could include making so that you do less in one particular area. So you have to identify where your own roadblock is and remove it and free up your time. So if you don't have time to go do sales calls, you're not gonna do sales calls. You're not gonna grow, right? So you have to write down your goal, and then you say, "Here's what I have to do to make that happen." Here's my little chart of pie, my pie chart of time, and 80% of my time's in operations, and I need it to be 50%, and I have to cut 30% out. Here's how I'm gonna do that. You could hire somebody to do it. You could set client expectations as a way to do it, or you could do what a lot of agencies and consultants do. You just work 80 hours a week. So it's your own adventure.
Okay. Thank you so much for that feedback. Really appreciate. One more quick question.
Yeah.
Don't you have fear, or back in time, didn't you feel fear when you had to change the relationship with your clients, like saying, "Hey, client, now you're not going to speak with me daily. We are going to speak weekly," or "Hey, client, now somebody's going to join."
If you're speaking daily to clients on camera, you are underpaid, sir. I don't care how much you're paid. You got to be paid a lot of money to do that. That is gruesome work.
Okay.
So you could get. My favorite thing to do is ask customers what they want and give it to them. My next favorite thing to do is set expectations by giving them options. Right. So, hey, we've been meeting daily. I'm going to be changing my processes, so I only meet weekly. If you'd like to continue daily meetings, I'm happy to do that, but I have to charge you 3 times as much. Which of these two would you rather have? Do you feel comfortable going to a weekly meeting instead of a daily? And if so, great, no problem. I'll charge you the same amount. I'll see you every Friday at 8 o'clock. You might lose a client when you do this, but overall, that time that you freed up, you'll be able to spend time on 3 more clients for the same price, and you're making 3 times as much.
Got it. Crystal clear. Thank you so much, Steven.
Don't do daily meetings. That's bad.
No, won't do it no more.
Yeah. All right, Romero, it was great talking with you. Good luck. Where are you calling in from, by the way?
I'm from Argentina.
Argentina. All right. Well, muy bien and hasta luego. We'll see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Our next guest coming in. How do you say your name?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. My name is Balázs. I'm from Hungary.
All right. From Hungary. All right.
Yeah. First time I heard this joke. No worry. So I have a few questions. I follow you for quite a long time now, and I'm just started to running my agency, and now my surprise is that I have so many opportunities to work with clients. So I used to be a salesperson, so I have no problem with communicating about my service and all of that. But now I'm kind of overwhelmed. So and I have, for example, one client who now sent me 100 products. He want to put it on Amazon.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, man, I just surprised, and I'm only focusing on Europe mainly now.
Yeah.
I'm just quite a bit surprised because, from my point of view, I wanna, get money for my services from my client, but also I don't
Yep.
want to put on a market one product which is already have so much oh my god. Competition, so, and that's why I'm just not sure, like,
Now, when you say product, are you talking about a physical product, or are you talking about your services?
about my client's product who he
Got
want to put it on Amazon.
All right. So do you charge your client a flat fee, an hourly fee, or do you charge them a percentage? What do you charge them?
That's going to be my second question, because I have an idea about how to calculate my price or fee of my services, but I'm also on the process on this. But that's going to be my second, because my idea on this, that now I'm just because this client just said to me, "All right, Balazs, I want to work with you. Do everything for me. Do the texts and everything, whatever."
So they're bought in. That's cool.
Yeah, because I can sell myself. I'm kind of confident about myself, and people love this. And
yeah, I can feel the charisma. You're good. You're doing good on sales. So
exactly.
What's the problem with launching 100 products? Where do you see the problem?
I'm just a bit overwhelmed, because I definitely want to, bring a quality service to my client. And now I'm kind of like I'm by myself running everything, and I have a few people who I'm working with, and I'm kind of overwhelmed. And also, I have just too much risk on my shoulders, because if, for example, there is a product, for example, a solar lamp, and I see the competition is, like, for example, like 100 other products already on Amazon, and I'm just a bit confused of how should I say yes to that product, or should I just recommend to, like, put it on Amazon, but don't accept too much from it from the beginning, or whatever.
What I always try and do is I ask customers what they want, and then I give it to them, but I also give them options, right? So we have a trifecta right here. And customers get to pick between 2 of 3 things, not all 3. Fast, good, cheap, right? And this is a classic trifecta. You've probably seen this before, right?
Yeah.
So if your customer says, I would like to not pay you anything additional, I'd like to have high quality, and I want these 100 products up by Friday, they're asking for that center "this doesn't exist" section, and that doesn't work, right? But if they said, hey, take your time, and I want this to be super quality for 100 products, and you might come back and say, cool, I can do good and cheap, but it's going to take 6 months. Are you okay with that? And they'll be like, no, it's not okay. All right, no problem. Let me shift over to fast and good. So I can charge you 4 times as much, and I can get it done in 30 days. Is fast and good work for you? And they're like, oh, no, I can't do that. Okay, cool. Well, I'll give you one last option. There's fast and cheap. And that's fine, but it won't be high quality. I could get your 100 listings up, but I'm only going to have a single main image. Is that okay? And they're like, oh, no, that's not okay. Well, okay, well, we have to pick between one of these 3 things, because you can pick 2 of them, but you can't pick 3 of them. So setting expectations with that client would be one potential avenue. You had a follow up there. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is just something which I just needed it, so I couldn't sleep quite well for the last 2 days. And this is something now you definitely covered my tonight, because I can probably sleep a bit better.
I'm glad to hear that. That was a quick sleeping pill.
Exactly, man. Yeah, that's it.
Active.
Because for me, I'm trying to also build my brand, and I definitely want to focus on quality. I don't care about and I already know that my customers want to make money from me, and this is not gonna work if the quality of my service is not good. I can put them on Amazon quickly, but in the end of the day, they are gonna be on Amazon, and that's not gonna generate them money. So it's on.
I felt like this was the heart of your question, and based on your facial reactions, it sounds like we hit the heart. But the other part of your question was whether he should launch that single product. And what I would say to that is, you can provide him competitive data, but if this dude is the world expert on this product, don't stop him just because there's lots of competition, right? Like that'd be like me, if you came on to my podcast here and you said you're worried about starting an agency, there's thousands of them. And I think that's ridiculous. Of course, there's room for another agency, right? Sure. You could do anything you want if you're the best at it, right? Now, if you are if you're a 4 out of 10 on something, the market is going to beat you down so fast, you're going to run for the hills, right? So if you're trying to, I have random products on my desk. So take my Age of Sage soap right here. Now, if I know nothing about soap and I start selling soap, and then there's thousands of soaps out there, obviously, then the likelihood of my product selling versus another competitor's is super low. However, if I happen to know how to manufacture soap, and I know how to pick the right scents, and I know something more about soap than these other guys, and I'm a 6 out of 10, I'm a 7 out of 10, maybe I'm a 10 out of 10, the likelihood of my success skyrockets. Right? Sure. And it doesn't matter how many competitors there are. So if your customer is a super expert at this product, he's got an affinity for the product, no amount of data is going to convince him not to do it. Whether you help him, he's going to get it done some other way. And so for those customers, I actually think they are better off than the customer that comes to me with a stack of data. Why? Because the guy that has a stack of data that's talking about tumblers, and he's like, yeah, I know exactly the tumbler. I'm going to be the next Yeti, and I've got all this data. And I'm like, cool. What do you know about tumblers? And he's like, or I'll ask a question like, so do you even own a tumbler? And he'd be like, no. Right. And I'll be like, well, then how are you going to win? Right. You have to have affinity to the product. So as an agency, when you're trying to dissect how to help the customer, sometimes it makes sense to ascertain their affinity. And if they have a strong affinity, I think you can sleep easy at night knowing that they're going to do it with or without you. So you might as well help them because they have a better chance.
Sure. In my case, the situation is that this guy, like I said, I'm from Hungary, and they already have quite a big web shop in my country, but they not focusing on being special in one product. They focusing on getting as much product from
so they're
China.
A retailer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they just, serves the customers, and they just, because they already have an existing inventory, they just want to put it on Amazon, and so that's why I'm a bit.
If that's the case, then this is a no-brainer. Just list it, right? Now, you don't have to spend advertising on it. Now, obviously, it's a lot of work to list lots of products, so that's back to the trifecta: good, fast, quality. Pick two, and just leave the option up to the customer. That's how I would do it.
But you seen how I was thinking that maybe I should calculate a bit of PPC on
set their expectations. Set their expectations. Be like, hey, we could launch 100 products and spend $10 a day on each product, or we could launch 10 products and spend $100 a day in PPC per day. If we do that, then there's more likely that one of those 10 products will outperform one of the 100. Which of those two do you prefer? And they might come back and say, I still want the 100. And you say, no problem, here you go.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So it's definitely is something. Thank you so much for all this, because while realizing now, these are the questions which I'm not supposed to answer by myself. This is something that I just give the options, and he have to decide it. All right. Very good. And
always ask customers what they want. What should we start doing? What should we stop doing? What should we do more of? And most importantly, what do you want from me? And give it to them. And if you can't give it to them, tell them, I can't give that to you. That's insane. Whatever. But Balazs, that was a great question. I'm so glad I could be your sleeping pill today.
Can I just add just a tiny bit of question? And I know you already just mentioned it before about my pricing. I don't want you to tell that how you pricing. Just say I'm in a good way or in a bad way of thinking that like I'm listing of all the services inside of on the Amazon, for example, customer service, PPC, managing, blah blah blah. I'm just calculating how much is it going to cost me, and add a little bit of percentage on top of that, because I will definitely need to hire a few freelancers, at least in the beginning, and then in the future definitely I will have to hire on my own guys as well. And how I thinking now is just like add a little bit of like 20% or 15% of profit on all these services, and that's how I'm going to roll. This is something that I'm on a good path, or should I reconsider all of this, or should I just buy your $10,000 package?
So there's no wrong answer to this particular question, right? You can do whatever you want. Now, the question is what's going to be the most effective for you? You have to ask yourself some questions. Just like you have to ask the customer questions, you got to ask yourself some questions. So you figure out, what is your goal, right? If your goal is to get 20% profit margin, then you just figure out how to get 20% profit margin. If your goal is to get 40 accounts, then you solve for 40 accounts as your X in the equation. So after you figure out what's your goal, then you can figure out what's the fastest way to get to that goal, if speed is your choice, right? Because again, same thing, good, fast, quality, or cheap rather, and you pick 2 or 3, right? Because there's no such thing as fast, good, and cheap. It doesn't exist. So with that in mind, once you understand what your pathway to success is, you then start solving for X and lining up resources. Now, me personally, I wouldn't pick a 20% margin. Me personally, I would only want to figure out how I could make money with a 5X multiple on anybody's time. Because in the agency world, the time that you can charge for, so let's say we hire somebody for $5 an hour out of the Philippines or whatever, right? And if I can charge $25 an hour on their time, I guarantee you I'm going to make at least 50% after all is said and done. The time that I have to train them, the time I have to do everything, it can add up very quickly, right? Your time to train staff is immense. So if you only pad for 20%, I fear your margin will be 0 very quickly.
Yeah.
But if you run the equation with an extreme solve for X, where you're like, every hour billed from the client, I have to make 5X multiple on, your business will be very different. Very, very different.
Yeah, you see, that's why it's good to talk with you, because I'm just living in my own world, and I'm just because I just started all this like a year ago, and I just realizing myself how much of this needed in my country, and
a 20% margin on a product is solid all day long, right? A 20% margin on a service can quickly become 0. It can happen super fast. Just blink your eyes and all of a sudden. So I shoot for a significantly higher service margin to protect myself from profit creep. And I keep my personnel costs at all times, well below that 50%. So that way I never have to worry.
These are all what I needed to hear. I also want to share with everyone who watching is that I really appreciate it, because I was watching you guys for quite a long time, but I never thought that I could get in and have a conversation with you. So I really appreciate it.
Special dedicated session for agencies and consultants today to come in and figure out how to solve your problems, because there's not a lot of resources out there for Amazon agencies. Exactly. And that's why I got on business. I started selling some Amazon SOPs, and now I'm selling agency SOPs, agency best practices. So I do hope you become a paid customer of my agency, guy. But even if not, it's my pleasure to be your sleeping pill today. Thanks for coming on, Balazs.
Sooner or later, and please remember my name, because we will talk
I will.
in the future, definitely.
I will. You'll see a copy of this video on the myguy.agency website probably by tomorrow. So, all right, thanks for coming on, man. It was great.
Care, man.
We've had some great conversations so far. I'm going to look at the comments here. Adam from Canada says hello. Agree with Steven. I never hire family, says rough. Fawad says great session. David asks, do you have clients with thousands of SKUs? Do you charge these clients differently? Absolutely charge those clients differently. If you're working with clothing brands, their margin is lower than the average home goods brand. But the work required to launch a 1,000 SKU clothing brand is 3 times higher maybe even 10 times higher than some of the other home good brands, right? It's significantly higher. So be careful on how you charge those accounts. Now, you could charge the same, but work on less of those SKUs. That'd be one way to solve it. Maybe you're only doing PPC only, and the number of SKUs doesn't affect you on PPC because you've got macros or you're using AI. All kinds of ways you could solve or pad your profit margins when dealing with high SKU accounts. But if you're trying to do design work on thousands of SKUs, oh boy, you better charge way higher for that because you're going to run out of margin super fast. All right. What do I do about conflicts? So there's all kinds of conflicts, David. There could be all kinds of conflicts. There could be conflicts interpersonal. It looks like you're clarifying your question where multiple sellers sell the same item. So this answer is going to surprise you, but I tell all of my clients, all of my prospective clients, the same thing. I do not sign non-competes. If I have 40 accounts all in supplements selling the same supplement, guess what happens? They all win. There is not a single loser in this case. All ships will rise together. Why? Because when we see something work for one account, we know it's going to work for another. It's not a zero-sum game. If I have two brands selling the same exact product, what works for one may or may not work for the other, but let's say it does. We do it on both. Now, obviously, if I have a conflict of interest where one brand's like, hey, I want you to file IP takedowns on this other brand, and that also happens to be my client, we won't do that, obviously. But I honestly think that a lot of agencies, when they sign NDAs and non-competes, get into trouble because they then block themselves from being able to do and conduct business. And then you give the keys of the kingdom to the client, to the brand, where they know that if they fire you, you're not working against them, right? And so it's not a zero-sum game. All ships rise together. You can safely take in multiple brands under the same, and it's just like the Silicon Valley, right? In San Francisco, the Silicon Valley, they have employees going from one tech company to the other, and all of them benefit. So I am a firm believer there is no conflict of interest as long as you set that expectation and tell clients in advance. There's not a single category I am prohibited from helping as an agency as a result of that. Nathaniel wants to know, how do we get on? So our social team probably needs to go add a link over in our LinkedIn side. So you get the StreamYard link. Over on YouTube, you can find the link as well. I'm going to click on myself right now and see if I can figure how to do this. But we're going to take maybe one or two more guests on behind the scenes. So if you go to youtube.com/myamazonguy, you can click on the StreamYard link at the top there and get over there. Social team at MAG, we should probably add the StreamYard links into these comments across platforms when we do this in the future to help people out. A couple more questions. I'm starting to lose my voice here. What do you think of saying that agencies are hired to be fired? I agree with that statement. And what is the average time a client stays with me? So our official number is 8 months. I have clients that have been with me 5 years, and I'm also a growing agency. So my 8-month number by next year will be 9 months, and the year after that, it's going to be 10 months, and the year after that, it'll probably be 12 months. Firm believer in that. The longer I exist, the longer it is. My churn rate is higher than the average agency. I also believe that. Why? Because I take on riskier deals, and I also know that there is a way to help out as many people as possible. So I have a very open door on helping clients. This does lead to certain accounts where it's harder to succeed, but we tell them up front. We set expectations and say, hey, you're not our typical ideal customer avatar. It's less likely we'll succeed, but we'll still take you on. And 1 out of 3 times it works out despite that. 2 out of 3 times we'll close the doors a few months in. And I'm totally fine with that. I still make money on those deals. And they get to answer their own question, right? So we never force anybody in. We never lie. We never tell them we're going to promise them the world and then not deliver. We always set proper expectations to helping them out. But as a result of my open door policy, it does have a higher churn model. Despite that, I grow 8% every month. So how do those two things work together? Very carefully, in fact. All right. So let's keep going down the list. Do I only have private label clients or arbitrage and wholesale? Great question. 99% private label. We'll sneak in an occasional wholesale client, but typically those wholesale clients are better off building a team internally because you don't have any design work. You typically don't run PPC. And so usually a wholesale model is more about buying contracts, getting deals with sourcing companies. And my agency doesn't support that. So that's why we're usually 99% profit margin. All right, Nat, you're going to be our last guest coming on today. Tell me about your agency and how I can help.
Hey, so first of all, thanks for everything. There's no one in the Amazon space that offers the value that you do. So thanks for that.
My pleasure.
And,
Thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, and just signed up for my agency, guys. So really looking forward to that as well.
Thank you for being a customer.
Yeah. So basically, I had my family run, operate a business. We're in the wholesale, and then selling to retailers across North America. And then my brother joined the business, and I said, you know what, go learn Amazon. If you don't want to work in the warehouse, go learn Amazon. And to my surprise,
there's still a lot of warehouse work when you work with Amazon. I could send you video pictures of the faces of my warehouse team right now because we have one of our cups that's a runner. It's not this cup, but we have a cup that's selling 180 units a day right now on Amazon. Wow. And they're like, please stop, turn this off. So there's a lot of warehouse work, just to be clear. But if you're at an agency, not so much. All right, tell me about your problem though. You set me off in a good way. So.
Yeah. No, good. So anyways, long story short, he kind of got the gist of it. Fast forward, and we said, you know what? Instead of bringing on more brands, we want to go the agency route. For reasons I don't have to explain to you. So that leads us. Yeah, cash flow, profit margin.
Cash flow. Yep.
So that's where we're at. Have a decent amount of customers. Things are going well. Fulfillment is really good. So, at least we don't have to worry about that. We're delivering results, case studies. Where I'm finding some friction right now is in the last week, we've gone on 10 calls through cold email outreach. And I find that we have like a discovery call framework. And the customer will come in and but what could you do for me now? What could you do for me? I'm trying to build rapport. I'm trying to, have certain questions. I'm trying to feel the customer. We do a little front end audit and drop some nuggets for them and try to get them to book a second call. But I just feel us kind of throwing our framework out the window because we're getting into this. But what could you do for me now? What could you do for me now? So my question, I guess, would be, do you guys have a similar framework, like a discovery call, and then you get on a second call where you present an audit, or how does that flow look for you guys?
So we close anywhere between 1 out of 4 to 1 out of 3, 25% to 33% of prospective clients that we meet with will close and sign a monthly deal with us. And for about 10% of those clients, it's a 1-call close. And for 90% of them, it's 2-call plus, and over a long period of time in some instances. We found that the data says that right around day 10 is the biggest decision tree average. That's where our median is to close a contract. So with that in mind, there is no right or wrong answer to your question. The value comes from what are you trying to achieve? And if you believe that the best way to achieve the most optimal results is to run a system where you ask all clients the same questions, and your outcome is you get to figure out whether they're a fit for you, then by all means, you should run that process. But if your goal is just get revenue in the door, then answering their question, what can you do for me? Well, here's a list of things we can do. Which one do you want to do? Okay, you want to do this one? Let's go do this one. Is fine too. So tell me, why are you worried about trying to run your system? What problems do you see happen when the system is not run?
Yeah, so it's mainly, I guess I'm also getting used to I've been selling, physical products for a long time, but I guess the service-based business kind of, is a different animal altogether. And it's not so much about not following the framework, but it's just the multiple calls, the following up. I guess if you're telling me, this is normal, like it takes you guys 2+ calls to close clients sometimes, I guess that's a little more reassuring. I was just, because out of 10 calls, everyone's, either doesn't want to get on a second call, or, if you don't provide too much value on the first call, But it's also, if they book a call for tomorrow, I mean, we don't have so much time to go run a full audit and bring that to the table, So how do you kind of provide that value on the first call where they even want to get on a second call with you?
So what I typically do is I'll make a process where I know that 9 out of 10 times when I get on that first call that I'm going to make them say, wow. And so if your concern is the amount of work it is to get a client, then solve for X, which is time. How do you eliminate time? You go for the highest delivery value framework, right? And you solve that backwards. So for example, I know that a main image will have the biggest impact on an Amazon brand faster than anything else. So I always start there, right? But I also know not one of my customers thinks about that before talking to me, right? Not a single one of them. What they all think about is pay-per-click advertising. And so I know then that in that first call, we got to talk about pay-per-click advertising. But you don't have to talk about SEO in the first call. You don't have to talk about catalog troubleshooting in the first call unless they bring it up, right? Depending on what you define as full service, you can figure out what makes sense to go through and talk about. The more work that you spend in getting the customer, the more likely that customer is going to like you and be a good fit for your system. But there comes a point where you start doing free work for people, and you gotta balance that, right? So it just depends. It depends, right? So the less likely that you need that client, right? The less needy that you come across, the more likely you are going to close them. So you have to figure out that perfect mix, right? Some agencies are overloaded with business; they don't even have time to run an audit. Other agencies are like, man, I don't have a single client. I'm going to spend 17 hours building this thing for you. But here's the thing. When you build that 17-hour PowerPoint deck, they TLDR it and then go next, right? Or they take your 17-hour power deck and then don't hire you and just steal your ideas. So there's all kinds of conundrums as a consultant or as an agency you have to work through. But which one do you think is the biggest problem for you?
I think right now, again, we're getting there's certain like a lot of pushback I've been getting, like a common question or comment in like the last 5 calls that I've gotten on is, yeah, but you Amazon agencies are all the same. You guys are all saying the same thing. I've been burned by a bunch of agencies. I get dozens. The guy said the word dozens 5 times in a row to emphasize on how many agencies reach out to them every single day via email. So like, what's your response to that? Like, what you can do? What's different with you guys? And that harassment, and they're like frustrated with you, So it's like, how do you currently answer it today? And I'll help. I'll answer that second, but I want to see how you answer it first. Total transparency. It took me a few calls before, figuring out my answer. It was like curveballs again. As you get on calls, certain things that you don't expect start to come, and you learn. And then what I said is, we're a boutique agency. We're not like my Amazon guy with 400 clients. Hope you name drop. Yeah. Nah, I did not. I would never do that. Okay. But anyways, I just said we're a boutique agency. We service our clients. We have case studies. And you're not a number to us. We're capped at 20 clients. We don't take more. Like, that's kind of my spiel that I give them. And so far, it's been well received. But to some people, I guess it's not everyone. Some people just like don't want to hear it, So for every big My Amazon Gay agency, there's another 100 boutiques like you. So if you're also going to answer that question with, oh, I'm a boutique, I'm not a big number, and 100 other agencies are saying that same thing, it's going to be a challenge, right? Yeah. So how do you answer that question, but do so in a unique fashion that helps the customer? Here's the sales process that I use. I say, hey, I hear this all the time. Customers are absolutely burned by agencies, and it's a big problem. Why did you get on this call with me despite that? And then you unearth what they're attached to with your process. And then you can say, did you get that from any other agency before? And they almost always say no. And I say, cool. So I'm saying something different then to you that resonates with you. And they say yes. And I say, cool. Does that alleviate your concern?
And half the time they'll say yes, and half the time you'll say no. And then you have to do this another round, and you go through and say, what would alleviate your concern? And half of them will say X and half of them will say Y. And then you say, cool, I can do Y. And then to the ones that say X, I'm sorry, I can't help with X, but here's our normal process. And half of those people, so we got a decision tree is basically what I'm trying to paint out here. And you have to have all this mapped down onto a single Google Doc to handle it. So the good news is I have a sales objection sheet. So I don't know if you bought which program did you buy for my
sales?
Good. So with that in mind, you're going to get access to my objection list.
Love that.
And so I'm going to be able to give, hold on, I got to get the right screen share button here. So for those that don't know, my agency guy is offering our entire operations process for $2,000 and our entire sales process for $10,000. And part of our $10,000 is a list of all of the sales objections and how to answer them. And so I will make sure that's loaded, and I'll get you a link after our podcast today, so you can go take a look at that and how we answer them. Now, no matter how good the list of objections you have, you just got to master the most common ones. And the fringe ones, you can always say, that's a great question. I'm going to think about that and get back to you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the ones that you know you're going to get, the ones that you brought up today, you have to role play the heck out of those. Then you go test them with people and see how they respond to that. You see how they resonate. And it will not, the same answer will not work on all of them.
Right.
So what you do is you circle back, you give your answer, and then you circle back and say, does that alleviate your concern? And if they say no, then you say, what would? And then after they say, it would alleviate my concern if you guarantee your results. And they say, cool, no problem. I'll add a guarantee to my contract, but I'm going to increase the fee 25%. And they'll be like, whoa, you can't do that. I'm like, well, sure. If you want a guarantee, it's going to take more of my resources, don't you think? And they'll be like, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. All right. So it's not the guarantee you really need. What is it? And then you dig in. And then finally, once they say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Then you say, are you ready to move forward? And they say yes or no. Right. So all of this can be roadmapped out. And I don't actually have a painted picture of the decision trees here, but I'm going to go get one made based on this conversation. We'll add it to the program because I think it will help people. Right.
Sure.
But you have to practice the most common sales objections. We have that already ready to go in part of the program. And this program is new. So for those that decide to become an early adopter, the bad news is it's not all there yet. Right? We don't have a video on every single topic. We don't have an SOP on every single topic. The good news is that we're actively building this out. And so for anybody that adopts the My Agency Guy program right now, if you have a particular problem like Nat does, you can ask for it and we'll go custom build it and add it to the program to reward you as an early adopter. So thank you, Nat, for being an early adopter. And for those others that decide to purchase, you can go to myguy.agency and we'll help you out as well. Nat, it was great talking with you today.
Same here. I appreciate it.
Did I give you something to think about? Amazing.
And just leave you off with I promise I'll be your best case study for my Amazon guy.
That's great. I look forward to that. It's hard to run an agency, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what? I thought it was moving from physical products and the logistical issues and the shipping issues. I'm like, I'm crazy. If I can deal with that, I can deal with this. But you have a different set of problems that come with an agency, but it's all good. It's all part of the experience, right?
It is all part of the experience that often includes shoveling manure out here and there. Right? So
basically,
it's your job to shovel manure all day long as an agency. But the key, though, is when you shovel the manure to the correct place and you plant the seeds with the manure, you can get a very nice crop of corn going, right?
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, Nat, thanks for being our last guest today. Perfect. Thanks for coming on, and look forward to serving you. So that's the show today for My Agency Guy. This is our custom AMA with people coming on camera today. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy, a $20 million grossing per year agency. And we also just started My Agency Guy at myguy.agency. So if you liked what you saw today, you want to learn more about our program, we have free sales calls where you can talk to our sales team about the program. We have paid calls if you want to just hire us for a one-off coaching call directly with me. Charge there is $500 for a 30-minute session. And then you can buy our operations process. You can buy our sales process. Just going to myguy.agency there. $2,000 for the operations, $10,000 for sales accelerator to learn how our entire sales process. It's fun talking to you guys. It's fun talking to agencies. You never know the challenges you're going to see on a live show and all of that. We'll probably do another one of these in about a month from now. If you liked what you saw today, please hit that thumbs up on YouTube. Add a comment. Maybe you'll have a question about how to run an agency. Add a comment. I'll come back and answer some of those. For example, you might have a question like Mucho has. Do you have clients that are forced to a minimum period of time? Yes, I sign them for a minimum of 3 months and a rolling 30-day out. That works for me. Other agencies sign annual commitments. Very different sales process to get an annual commitment, but there's some benefits to having longer contracts. Sometimes there's also some disadvantages as well. So things like that, we have articulated answers, SOPs, and processes all built into the program. It's been my pleasure to be your host today, and it's fun doing AMAs. My name again, Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy, a $20 million agency, and you can purchase our stuff at myguy.agency to learn how to run your agency as well. We'll see you next time.